one other question, as I'm kind of soaking up the details here. The county that I represent, Portage County, is split into 3 congressional districts. And I know I'm going to get a lot of questions from my constituents as soon as they have access to this map. And I wonder if you can help me explain why that was done and how you think that that is fair representation for the people that live in the county that I represent.
Well, I would say this Portage County is one of 88 counties in the state of Ohio. To step back and say, well, let's just look at Portage County and decide whether it's fair, really isn't the analysis that needs to be done when you're drawing 16 congressional districts with all the legal factors, all the constitutional factors, all of the history, the other principles, redistricting principles, to simply look at one county and say, well, is that fair? Now, one could make an argument because you may have one idea of what fair is, and Representative Lundy may have another idea of what that is. But the process here is fair and legal. That's what we're attempting to obtain as best we can. And we know what the specific legal premises are. In fairness, I understand that for you may think Portage County needs to be only one division or in one district or 2. So that's, I guess, fairness is certainly going to be determined on an individual basis.
And Representative Huffman, if you could comment on the current map as far as creation of competitive districts, Republican or Democratic districts. My quick observation is it looks like a map that's about a 12-4 map. And I just wonder if you could comment on how a map like that could be considered fair to a majority of Ohioans.
Representative Blessing, Representative Clyde, you used 2 terms, and you said competitive and fair. And I guess I'll start with I talked about what each individual or each district or county may think is fair, but as it relates to competitiveness, we can take a political index and apply this to these districts. And it may depend on what political index any individual wants to use. Some folks, they take these 4 races or these 6 or the presidential or whatever that may be. And I'll allow other folks to go through with that and say, well, here's the index I would use. I think what you will see as you go through there is you'll be very surprised about how competitive these districts are, about how many are, one of the speakers, Mr. Slagle, indicated, well, if it's higher than 45 and lower than 55, that's competitive. Again, where that percentage is going to be is going to depend on which races you want to select for your index. But I think you'll see, because I can't tell you which index you're going to use, I think when you choose one that you think is fair, you'll see that these districts are much more competitive than you may first deduce in looking at the map.
Representative.
Thank you very much. Representative Hoffman, one quick question. How important in drawing the map are communities of interest? How important is that?
Well, I think if you recall our Legislative Service Commission's report to us was first given by Linda at our subcommittee hearing in July. And in our first committee hearing last week, we went through that. I just sort of read through that, as you recall. There were 2 of those redistricting principles which were subservient to the others, those being the incumbent protection and the core of previous districts. So certainly the communities of interest is a more important principle in redistricting, and certainly on the level of keeping, for example, political subdivisions together where possible, that kind of thing. On the other hand, if we're going to do this by comparison, certainly the population and the Voting Rights Act, those primary constitutional things are as we've indicated, those are very important also.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and Chairman Huffman. It's been a long interview process here so far, going over the bill. That's why you get paid the big bucks, right?
I think I'm getting extra pay for this. Why?
Combat pay, maybe. I guess I'm just curious about the process, because you brought a map to us before, or now, that we hadn't seen before. And I'm just wondering, with all the technology that's out there, why do you think that politicians can draw better maps than the public, or through the current software process? Why do you think that politicians can draw better maps?
Representative Chairman and Representative Lundy, we're using subjective terms, fair, better, things like that. And I'm not sure why it is that any other map, certainly people may prefer maps for a variety of reasons different than this one, and therefore conclude that it is better. This map was drawn again by staffers after input from a variety of public around the state and trying to keep those principles in place. Does that mean that it's a better map than a map drawn by some individual? That's in the eye of the beholder. But what I do want to emphasize is this is the constitutional process that's put in place for adopting these maps. That elected representatives are to vote these maps, and we all know what that process is. The problem with saying a member of the public, the question is what member of the public? The member that you select, or the member that I select? Or the Representative Patman selects, or Representative Blessing, or who? And so the way we do that in America is we elect people to make these decisions. And then if we don't like their decisions, we vote other people in. And there's probably some person out there who's the ultimate fair person. But you and I aren't going to necessarily agree on who that is.
Just a quick follow-up. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Since we're not going to be spending much time for public input on this, I think it's important to be as transparent as possible. And since most folks in this room weren't sitting in the room when these maps were drawn, I guess I'm just curious. You said Republican staff was at the table. We're in a unique position here where the Speaker of the House is here in Ohio. So I'm wondering to what extent he played a role in this. Did you have many conversations with him about this in congressional districts beyond his own?
Representative Blessing, Representative Lundy, I've had no conversations with Speaker Boehner and no conversations with members of his staff. I think I saw John Boehner about a year ago when he passed through the line, so before he was Speaker of the House.
But maybe that was a legally narrow response there. As far as the Republican staff, those working on the maps, you're saying not yourself, but those working on the maps had any direct input from the House Speaker?
Representative Blessing, Representative Lundy, I can only answer the question you asked, and the answer to that is I don't know what conversations, if any, these folks had. You may know that Speaker Boehner's been busy with a lot of things, and these are, as to specific or general conversations,